All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. We got NBA basketball yesterday. Not exactly NBA basketball, but we got to watch NBA players play basketball, particularly some exciting young prospects. I took the time this morning to watch most of 4 games. We're going to be covering Lakers Heat, Thunder Jazz, Warriors Kings, and Spurs Hornets. Going to be hitting on a lot of the upper level prospects in this year's draft, and then some guys for the higher profile teams that we cover. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Volume's YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss any show announcements. And last but not least, if for whatever reason you guys miss one of these videos and you can't get back over to YouTube to finish, don't forget you can find them wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. So last year was the first year I covered Summer League very closely. Obviously, it was when I was working here for the Volume for Hoops Tonight. Before this, remember, I used to just cover the Lakers. And I really, really enjoyed it last year. One of my favorite days as a basketball fan in the last calendar year was Saturday at Summer League last year. Got there nice and early, about like 45 minutes before the first game started. I got 10 rows up right about center court, and I watched 4 games. I literally got out of my seat just to go to the bathroom and to get lunch basically for 8 hours and got to watch a bunch of the top prospects in the league. I got to watch Paolo Banchero play. I got to watch Josh Giddey and Chet Homgren running pick and pops. And it was, actually Jaden Ivey was the player I was most impressed by in last year's Summer League. He just had this flurry of baskets and plays for a couple of minutes before he tweaked his ankle and had to leave the game. But he was like the most visually impressive guy early on because just nobody could keep him in front off the dribble. I had so much fun just as a basketball fan sitting there and watching. And this morning, obviously, over some coffee on my couch with the puppy sitting next to me, I got to kind of have a different version of that type of day, and I really enjoyed it. So we're going to go rapid fire, only going to go for about 10, 15 minutes. I just want to give you guys some takeaways from my first impressions of some of these players playing Summer League basketball. So Lakers Heat, starting with Jalen Hood-Schifino. He's really passive early. He was being guarded by, I'm blanking on his first name, but Bouye. It's this really small, skinny guard that was playing for the Heat. And, you know, Jalen's a big guard. Like, he weighs almost as much as I do. He's like 218 pounds or something like that. And so I really was hoping to see him be more physically aggressive. And particularly in his first shift, he wasn't. He was just kind of coasting through the game. Nothing wrong with that. Like, there's a bunch of different ways to approach a setting like this, especially when everyone's trying to show what they can do. Summer League basketball is really interesting to me because on the defensive end, the intensity is off the charts because you have the combination of guys trying to earn a spot in the league and knowing that defense is one of the easiest ways to impress a coaching staff. So everyone's flying around defensively. The offensive end is almost always ugly and stilted and just kind of nasty basketball. Why? Because everyone's also trying to show what they can do on the offensive end of the floor, which more often than not means if you're kind of on the fence 50-50 between forcing up a shot and making the play to the next open guy to kind of keep the wheel moving, most guys are going to opt to take that shot in a Summer League type of setting because they want to demonstrate that they can make it. And so offensive basketball in NBA Summer League can be really nasty. So kudos to Jalen for kind of like easing his way into the game. But they're right around the end of the second quarter, and then in the early third quarter, he started getting downhill. He started actually hitting the jets and punching gaps. When you weigh 218 pounds and most of the guards that are guarding you are in the 180, 190 range, you're going to be able to hit some gaps and get downhill. And he had a couple of really nice finishes off the glass, a couple of them that were particularly tough. He had a really tough left-handed layup that he made in the late second and one that he missed in the first quarter. Jalen didn't shoot particularly well at the rim in college, and one of the big reasons for that was he just takes extremely difficult layups. So definitely over his, especially as he's trying to play in a winning context here with the Lakers, he's going to have to be a little bit more picky about when he tries to throw stuff up at the rim and when he actually has a good opportunity there. But he did generate real rim pressure in the middle portion of this game. And that's an extremely valuable thing from the guard position, especially when you've got guys like LeBron James and Anthony Davis that are going to be around him to clean things up on the glass when he occupies rim protectors. I did not think his jumper looked particularly comfortable. It looked a little It looked like a little bit like he was having trouble getting the ball into the pocket where he wanted it. His release didn't look overly smooth, but just one game. Don't want to overreact to that. Again, he shot over 40% on pull-up jump shots in college last year. Again, I did full scouts on a lot of these guys right after the draft. So definitely, if you want to hear like more in-depth breakdowns of what these guys are capable of, from what I learned in college and watching a lot more film, you can find that earlier on our feed shortly after the draft. Maxwell Lewis didn't play as much as I thought he would, but one of the things that I picked up in his scouting report that I did a while back was that he's excellent at attacking closeouts, either like quick ripping off the catch or pumping and ripping off the catch. And he made two really nice plays early in his first shift where he pump faked, ripped towards the middle, threw a nice little shovel pass to, I can't remember his name, but there was a center that was playing there in the middle of the floor, made a little pop shot. Then he had another one from the right wing where he pumped and ripped and got all the way to the rim and did like a nice little sidestep and finished with his right hand at the basket. I actually think Maxwell Lewis is going to be a really interesting player to watch this year with the Lakers, potentially getting more minutes than you'd think because of how gifted he is at attacking closeouts, not just as a scorer, but making reads as well. Max Christie. So one of my things that I love about Summer League basketball is it is an opportunity for some of the players that play really, really small roles in the NBA to kind of get to demonstrate what they can do in a larger opportunity. So Max Christie was basically a catch and shoot guy for the Lakers last year, and he shot really well. I think he shot like 41% from three or something along those lines. He's a good shooter. He's also put on a good amount of muscle since he came into the LA system. But in this particular setting, we got to see him show a little bit more of what he could do off the bounce. It was a mixed bag. He had some nice driving layups. He had a couple of nice little like mid-range shots in the paint area, like right in that like 10 to 15 foot area. Has a little bit of shiftiness to his game that I wasn't expecting. That said, there were some sloppiness as well. A couple of plays where guys were physical with him when he was attacking closeouts and got him to lose his balance and fall over or lose control of the basketball. That comes in time. One of the things that's nice about Summer League is they can get lots of reps and it's not a problem. Cole Swider, again, the guy can shoot the shit out of the basketball. I think he shot like 39% from three last year on obviously super low volume and made a couple shots when he got good looks. In this particular game, he's just not very mobile, and that's the issue. It's like he has trouble impacting the game beyond him making shots, and that just kind of makes it difficult to succeed in the NBA because shooters are a dime a dozen. They're all over the league, and so you've got to find a way to stay on the floor one way or another. Duncan Robinson, for instance, one of the big reasons why he's been such a impactful player for the Miami Heat is he's learned how to put the ball on the floor. He's actually a little bit more mobile than you'd think, and he's learned how to put the ball on the floor, so they can run dribble handoffs and stuff with him. They were running dribble handoffs with Duncan Robinson in the playoffs to generate stuff in the half court. So that's like if Cole Swider wants to stick in the league, he's going to have to develop some stuff that goes beyond his ability to knock down shots. Jaime Jaquez Jr. That was a fun game to watch from him. First of all, really big and strong. He's about 6'6" and weighs like I think 225 pounds. And that's just going to give him a physical advantage over a lot of perimeter players that he's going to go against. There was a really nice play where it was in the first quarter, I believe, where he drove on Cole Swider, who again has been through a year of an NBA strength and conditioning program and is jacked now. And he just hit him with that. Cole Swider cut him off, or not Cole Swider, excuse me. Max Christie cut him off, and he hit that power dribble into his spin. And because he's 225 pounds, like he generated that little bit of separation and got to turn over his right shoulder for a little floater in the lane, and he made it. That's the advantage of being as big and strong as he is. It's kind of like Jimmy Butler. He's not necessarily the tallest wing that we have in the league, but he's so big and strong that when he kind of gets a little bit of an edge, he just drops that shoulder and hits you, and he can get to a shot wherever he wants. I saw a lot of people on Twitter calling Jaime Jaquez a hooper and saying like, oh man, this kid just might be a really good basketball player. And it's funny because it's a cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. And generally speaking, when we look at a cliche, there's a reason why it's been used as often as it has. To me, being just a good basketball player means you do all these little basketball player things well, which makes it so that you fit well alongside really good basketball players, especially when there are top-end guys that can create advantage situations for you. So, for instance, first time where he gets that nasty poster dunk, he's just running his lane in transition. You see the turnover, Jaime just starts sprinting up the right wing, just filling his lane, which is something they teach you at the earliest levels of basketball, something you have to do to be a good basketball player. Runs the lane, gets a dunk. There's another play in, I think, the early third quarter where he runs a 2-on-1 break to perfection, gets rid of the ball early to the guy that's ahead of the play, and then just runs to the front of the rim. The lob pass comes up, he dunks it. There was a play in the second quarter where, as another action was running, he relocates to the dunker spot, makes himself available, catches, quickly goes up and dunks it with two hands. a lot of the scouting reports said that Jaime wasn't a great athlete. Well, he had 3 dunks. One of them was a poster. Another was an alley-oop, and one was out of the dunker spot. And it's just because most of being a good basketball player is up here. Most of it is just knowing what to do and where to be and how to play your role within a system. And Jaime's just great at all of that stuff. I thought he showed some good stuff out of pick and roll. He had a lob to Orlando Robinson where he blew the dunk, but he made a nice read coming down in pick and roll. Missed a couple jumpers early in the game. You're going to see a lot of that where guys are missing jumpers because the physicality and intensity is just so much early and you have to adjust to it. But he did get his jumper going later in the game. Thunder Jazz. I was stunned to see that Jalen Williams was playing, and in a shocking turn of events, he scored the first 9 points of the game because nobody on that court could guard him. Although he was being guarded by Ochai Agbaji, and he was going right at him. I always say Jalen Williams reminds me a lot of Jaylen Brown with the ability to pass the basketball. But the Jaylen Brown thing is like that power wing that has a good mid-range game, but has a lot of improvisation to his game. There's a play where he was on the top of the key and he just drove hard at Ochai Agbaji, just dropped his right shoulder, bumped him off, and rose up and knocked down like a little 12-footer in the lane. That's textbook Jaylen Brown. But Jaylen Brown's a little bit of a tunnel vision guy, and Jalen Williams is a very good passer. And so as he develops, he has the potential to be a lot better than him in the long run, especially if he can get to where Jaylen Brown is as a scorer. Chet Homgren, tough first shift, really struggled with the physicality, was turning the basketball over, was struggling to finish around the basket. But in his second shift, he got going. Was doing a really good job attacking closeouts from the top of the key. Again, this is that Kristaps Porzingis role, right? Like you screen, you roll to the top of the key. Inevitably, the big man's lingering just a little bit to contain the ball handler in the pick and roll. The swing pass goes back to the top of the key. You're catching, and there's a big, slow defender closing out at you. And so, obviously, really good perimeter defenders can close out and contain, but big guys typically struggle with that. And Chet did a really nice job attacking closeouts from the top of the key. That pump fake, kind of turn your right shoulder, drive down the lane, finish with your left hand, or finish with 2 hands at the rim. He was doing a really nice job there. His handle is very, very sharp. Like, that's something that was just popping off the screen early on. Obviously, he had some turnovers early in the game, but when he really got comfortable with the basketball in his hands, it's just so unusual to see a player that big making these big sweeping, like repeated crossover dribbles and through the legs dribbles to get to his spots. I'm so excited to watch him this season. I can't hardly stand it. The rim protection was there as well. You think you see an opening, and next thing you know, you just see Chet coming up with 2 hands and blocking a guy at the rim. I think O'Shea tried to dunk on him at one point. He blocked him with 2 hands. On O'Shea's front, again, kind of similar to the Max Christie thing, you get to see he's just a catch-and-shoot guy who's a primary defender, right? And he's a guy who's going to guard the other team's best perimeter defender on most nights for the Jazz. But you got to see a little bit of him putting the ball on the floor. Handle looks pretty sharp. The footwork looks good. Made some jumpers, particularly in catch-and-shoot situations, but he did struggle to finish a little bit, and the touch wasn't quite there when he would like make a move and beat someone to get to his spot and then have to rise up over the top to finish. Like that was the kind of the thing that was missing. But again, just keep working on it. And hopefully 5 years from now, instead of just being a guy who defends and occasionally can knock down threes, you can either be an Isaac Okoro or you can go on to be a real closeout attacking threat, a guy like Andrew Wiggins, right? Like and obviously those are 2 completely different players. But my point is you can be a one-dimensional role player or you can be a role player that can do more. And you have to continue to build that skill set out over the years. Warriors Kings. Brandin Podziemski, I was actually really impressed by him. The numbers weren't overly impressive. I think he was like 4 for 9 from the field. It wasn't like he did anything really eye-popping as a scorer in this particular game. But I thought he played really good advantage creation basketball. And it was exciting for me to watch because it makes me think he's going to be a much better fit in Golden State than even I expected. And if you remember in the scouting report that I did, I thought he was going to be an excellent fit in Golden State's offense. I'm more concerned about him on the defensive end, and that will be something we see over the years, especially as he goes against NBA competition. But he was so good in DHOs and off-screen actions and ball screens last year that I just kind of expected that to translate to Golden State's system because of how many dribble handoffs that they run. And in this particular game, he was consistently generating rim pressure, generating driving lanes and beating people off the dribble just by doing the same thing every time. Catch, showing that shot fake, dipping that shoulder to get that shoulder below the defender's shoulder and getting downhill. And then instead of forcing up stupid shots, just making that read. I was blown away by his passing ability in this game. He wasn't necessarily a big assist guy last year. He was an awesome rebounder, but he wasn't necessarily a big assist guy. But you can tell that's there. It was more of a product of necessity, most likely, at the college level, that he was shooting as much as he did. But the dude was consistently making reads. It's just first possession of the game, transition, run out, just kick out to the right wing for a three. They were like in pick and roll instead of just driving and making some simple swing out pass. He's identifying where the defense is compromised and making that. He made a 20-foot cross-court bounce pass in pick and roll. In they ran that play that they always run with Clay, where they run pick and roll and they have a shooter kind of flare out on the top of the key. And instead of flare, when the flare happened, Brandin noticed the entire backside was vacated and the defender was up high, and so the back door is open. He just launches this ridiculous bounce pass that catches the guy in stride going to the rim. And there was a good defensive play that kind of contained that, and they didn't end up even getting a shot up out of that particular action, but the pass in and of itself was really impressive. Hitting cutters along the baseline. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, Warriors fans, I encourage you to watch this game because you're going to be really impressed by Brandon's passing. Again, I think he's going to be a really good fit in Golden State's system. I actually think he's going to be a much better offensive player than Dante DiVincenzo was last year. But again, Dante was an excellent defender for them at the point of attack. So that's going to be the area that's going to determine whether or not he can stay on the floor. Trayce Jackson-Davis did not play in this game. Apparently he's a little banged up right now. But again, we're going to be in Vegas, and I'm going to be covering him very closely. So pay attention to the feeds over the course of this coming weekend, and you'll get to see some stuff on Trayce Jackson-Davis. Keegan Murray was another guy I was surprised to see playing, but he had a really nice transition dunk early in the game. All right, last but not least, Brandon Miller. Really rough game. He traveled on his first two touches, finished the game with more fouls than made field goals, finished the game with more turnovers than made field goals, really kind of struggled. But I want to cut him some slack because that was quite possibly the worst Summer League game I've watched in the last few years. For the first several minutes of the game, the Hornets, just whoever had the basketball, dribbled up the floor and shot. Like, there was no passing, there was no moving the ball. They weren't playing basketball. They were just showing off, trying to demonstrate what they could do without any concept of the team concept and what they were trying to accomplish as a goal. And as a result, they got absolutely just blitzed from the opening tip by that Spurs team. I think they were almost doubled up at halftime. They were down 20 or so right at the end of the first quarter. So, again, and Brandon did get going a little bit in the second half, making some catch-and-shoot threes. He definitely looked more comfortable off the catch than off the dribble, which is something to keep an eye on. But it's impossible to get in rhythm as a scorer when everyone's just playing your turn, my turn basketball and making no attempt to pass the basketball. You're not going to be able to look like your best version of yourself as a basketball player in that setting. So not a great night for Brandon Miller in his first Summer League game, but a lot of basketball left, and I don't think it was a fair environment to really judge Brandon what he's capable of. All right, guys, that is all I have for right now. We're going to be back. I'm going to record later this afternoon that deep dive into the Lakers offseason. I'm not sure if it's going to air today or tomorrow morning. I'll let you guys know. But I will see you guys at that point. I appreciate your support.